everyone. My name is Preston. I am the programmer here at Leafy Games.
And I'm George, the artist. And today, Beta 13 is being released. As we've mentioned in previous posts, it's mainly focused on VR support. We've also managed to get in support for the various motion controllers that come with the Vive and you can get with the Rift. We've updated a lot of the in-game menus, and we've added a handful of new content and various other things that we'll go over right now.
Beta 13 introduces VR support to PULSAR Lost Colony. So anyone looking out there, or anyone who way back when followed our Kickstarter and has been waiting patiently, and then finally your time is up and you get to start experiencing it. Admittedly, this first build we're pushing out here isn't... it could still need some work as far in the VR area, especially optimizations. And there's a few other warnings we want to say. VR is already a very intense experience, and VR in Pulsar is doubly so because of certain facts about Pulsar, including standing on a bridge that has the freedom to rotate and spin and move on its own. And if you spend your time on the bridge looking out the window, there's a decent chance you will get a little motion sick just due to the movements outside of your control manipulating your environment. But so it's something to keep in mind. Just, if that sort of thing is you think that's going to be problematic for you, perhaps try not to look out the windows so much, or we'll see. But we just wanted to put a warning there. It's an intense experience, and
definitely not for beginners.
We don't necessarily recommend the Pulsar experience, especially if you're playing and actually playing the game properly instead of just standing around. For your first VR experience, we think it takes. We want to warm up a little bit on the more comfortable stuff, and especially if you're not used to direct movement controls in VR. So something to keep in mind. We just wanted to get that out there, make sure everyone understood. It's very, very intensive, and we are. There's not too much we can do about that. It's at the end of the day, it's an intensive game, and with ships moving around, and that feeling of being on a starship bridge, it's sort of unavoidable that there could be a little bit of motion sickness there. So something to keep in mind.
In the future, we were talking about maybe like just shutting off, closing all the windows, but that may be too detrimental to the entire experience.
We think part of the immersive experience is looking out those windows, we believe. It's a big part of the goal of the game, especially in the beginning days.
Yeah, for sure.
So besides that, now you've been warned, we've been working on VR for Pulsar a lot, and we have a lot of, we support a lot of stuff here, so including the Oculus Touch and Steam VR motion controllers. So now you can aim and fire your weapons in a more natural way. And we've done our best to make sure that we've enabled as many features as we could and that made sense in VR, including seated standing, as well as room scale modes, and as well as we've enabled multiplayer support so that VR and non-VR players can play together seamlessly without worrying about it. In addition, you can at any moment switch off or on VR by pressing F10, and you can reset the orientation by pressing F11. This only works in seated standing modes, as room scale mode works on its own. It does its own thing. For all the details, you can, of course, read the release notes. There's quite a lot of little details and facts. I recommend that you go ahead and look through those if you're at all interested in trying out Pulsar in VR. Lots of good information. In addition, you can look there for the recommended specs. It's a very intensive on your computer hardware currently, so it's something to keep in mind. And it's not going to run on every computer that Pulsar can run on. It's much, much higher hardware requirements than the standard 2D version. So keep that in mind, and take a look at the release notes for more information on that.
So we were originally hoping to release Beta 13 at the end of January, but as you can see by the release date of this video, we are a tad late. It's mostly because of motion controller support. We were gonna experiment with it during January and perhaps later add it later, but we decided it was really, really cool and we wanted to add it. with the VR update, because we think it's really paramount to the experience if you have those controllers. They ended up being a bit more complex than we anticipated, and then even after that, and a bit more complex again. They're quite a beast, especially for this project, but we think we got them working out. You can switch out weapons. We have some default bindings for some of the buttons on them. Each one has its own button layout, and we're trying to fit the scales and the translations so that they work and they're in the right positions in real life. There's a whole bunch of challenges and little nuanced details.
In addition, you can also interface with ship screens as well as almost every menu in the game using your motion controllers as sort of like laser pointers. So you get a sort of almost mouse-like precision while you're wearing those headsets, as long as you're using the motion controllers, of course.
It's not perfect yet as anything in this project, but we think it's pretty awesome. And if you are going to play in VR, or you're very interested in playing in VR, we highly recommend, if you have those controllers, break them out. Probably don't need to even say it, because that's probably what you would have done anyways, but just so we're a little late, but we think it's definitely worth it. Just having the pistol, like the phase pistol in your hand, and shooting it around the hub and on the ship and stuff, is really satisfying. So
for sure,
we hope you enjoy that.
In addition, we overhauled many of the menus in PULSAR. This was somewhat required for the VR stuff because our old menu system would not properly display in VR no matter what we did. So we knew at some point we would have to redo all the menus, and we decided this was the time to do it. So we've redone many of the game's menus, and added a new one, the VR settings menu, which you can use to control various aspects of your VR experience. And in addition, many of the in-game menus and the options and out-of-game menus have been redone. We think they look a little better. They scale better with various resolutions. They should theoretically be a little faster to render, and of course they work well in VR. So we think they worked out really well, and we hope you enjoyed the new menus.
So some of the new content we've added, I believe, 5 new planets and a handful of new missions. One of the new planets and missions works together, and we're pretty excited about it. It's kind of a mission a la Star Trek theme in a way. It's more of you're requested to examine a sort of a small colony and investigate some interesting things that have happened there, and it's more about diplomacy than fighting, and it's we think it's interesting. It's completely optional, so you won't get any penalties for refusing it. It's but if you come across Lotharis 9, we hope you enjoyed the little interesting story we've laid out there. Besides that, we've updated Gamepad Support, so it should work a little better. It's still we want to do a couple more things with that, but I think generally it's a nice step forward for PS4 and Xbox One controllers. The default bindings, we've worked pretty hard on getting those to be much more comfortable than what they were. Anything else you want to add?
The input system now pulls joysticks a little bit differently. Just the idea is that it just works a bit better, and if you there's problems with the old system where it would depend on the order in which you plugged in joysticks and how which one they would bind to, and all this stuff that wasn't really clear what was going on. So we've attempted to make it just work a bit better overall by default. So by default, it'll pull all the joysticks together, so it doesn't matter which ID it connects to. It should just work. So hopefully you noticed that, and any gamepad players, hopefully it's a bit better. So you can always, as always, you could always rebind them and create your own settings as always. Mm-hmm. But we've spent some time making them better. So
we're definitely planning on spending a bit more time in the near future, and to hopefully make them even better.
Indeed.
We've added a bunch of other stuff. I think we've added like a percent of sectors discovered little feature in the main menu, just to give you an idea of how much content you've seen. It's going to start at 0, so if anyone's played before, sorry. And if you discover like a new planet via like a mission unlocks a new planet, that'll actually add to the amount that you haven't discovered. So there's a chance that your percentage might decrease if you do something like that. But just it's hopefully to give people a better idea of how much there is in the game and when to press on and when to maybe hold back and wait for another couple updates before playing again if you are like that.
Yeah, that's a small thing, but we think it might be nice. So.
As always, check out the release notes for more information on all the changes that we've made and for advice and information on the VR support for PULSAR. That's pretty much it for us for this update. We hope you enjoyed the new changes, and we hope you find something interesting in the update, even if you're not a fan of VR supports.
Indeed. Thanks for listening and watching, guys, and thanks for all your feedback and reports, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.